Mute all current and new participants. I'm just going to have to set up before we record to the feed to YouTube. We'll take just a moment. Good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association, established in 1981, and now celebrating our 40th anniversary. I would like to welcome our viewers and listeners worldwide and our live Zoom studio audience to this evening's program in our Root and Branch Association Limited English Language Conference and Lecture Series, broadcasting from Jerusalem, Israel. And now celebrating the beginning of our second quarter century. We've just concluded the first quarter century from January 1995 until December 2020. And now with January 2021, we're on the next 25 years, second quarter century. Today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 in the Gregorian calendar, and it is the 8th day of ER 5781 in the Hebrew Israelite calendar. We are broadcasting from the land of Israel, city of God, Jerusalem, hill of the priests, Abu Tor Givat Hanania, overlooking Mount Moriah, where we believe that the third and final Israelite temple of Jerusalem will soon be under reconstruction and stand forever, as per the prophet Ezekiel's vision. Please see the biblical book of Ezekiel, chapters 40 through 48. Our speaker for this evening will be introduced by our program chair, Dr. Les Glassman. She is Mrs. Yaffa Batya de Costa, and she will be speaking on B'nai Anousim and B'nai Noach, two movements that are closely related and get very little help and support. A historical note for those who are not aware of it, that our meeting this evening to discuss the growth worldwide of the B'nai Anousim and B'nai Noach movements is taking place on the birthday of Adolf Hitler, April 20th. And that's a nice light shining in the darkness, in response to that darkness, that we can do this. And now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Les Glassman, and he will introduce Mrs. de Costa.
Well, thank you very much. And it is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Rabbinit Yaffa Batya de Costa. We met when you spoke at the OU, and we really look forward to your presentation this evening. I'm just going to give a short bio, because if I would speak longer, it would take, we'd spend maybe the whole evening just discussing your achievements. But Rabbinit Yaffa Batya de Costa is the founder and CEO of Israel Anousim since 2005, an Israeli nonprofit organization. It's made up mostly of 30 managing directors from all over the world and many committed activists, most of who are themselves from the B'nai Anousim. People have joined this organization for many years to work with Yaffa in helping the B'nai Anousim to make a full and public comeback, a return to the faith and their traditions of their Sephardi Jewish ancestors. Yaffa Batya's upcoming 30th anniversary of being involved with this movement will be on Purim 2022, next year. She has an extensive business management, consulting, coaching, and projects management background with corporate 100 companies in the USA. So, Rabbinit, we eagerly await your presentation, and it really is truly a great honor and a privilege to have you this evening. And our wish is that the B'nai Anousim become part of, they should become part of Am Yisrael and return to their roots and return home. And you are the pioneer, if I can say, one of the pioneers. And we really, really appreciate you giving us your time tonight and enlightening us on this very, very important subject. So without any further ado, Rabbinit Yaffa de Costa, if you can go ahead. Thank you.
Moshe, can you unmute unmute Moshe so he can translate. Maybe you can translate a little bit of that. I'm sorry I didn't send you that bio in advance, Moshe.
Ok, no se preocupe, don't worry about it. Bien, muy buenas noches a todos desde Israel, probablemente buenos días en América Latina. El día de hoy vamos a presentar por parte de Root and Branch Association una conferencia respecto a qué es lo que el trabajo de la Rabanit Batya Yaffa Costa ha sido en torno al proyecto de Anousim, una asociación sin fines de lucro, una fundación que ha trabajado desde el año 2005 ayudando a Anousim alrededor del mundo. Nos presentó en su momento Joseph Lowell respecto a, estamos transmitiendo de Israel, transmitiendo en vivo desde la Ciudad Santa, desde el lugar en donde creemos va a estar construido Bezrat Hashem pronto el Templo de Israel. Y han pasado un cuarto de siglo desde que inició este proceso. No sería posible, también nos dice Leslie Glassman, recorrer toda la experiencia que ha tenido la Rabanit Batya Yaffa Costa en torno a la ayuda que ha brindado a Anousim alrededor del mundo. Tampoco sería fácil nombrar la experiencia que tiene respecto a trabajar con gente, organización y los diferentes proyectos que ha tenido a cargo. Ella es una persona que se ha dedicado a supervisar y además dar seguimiento a proyectos, es su profesión y ha sido desarrollada por mucho tiempo en diferentes empresas alrededor del mundo, ahora con su fundación ayudando a Bnei Anousim desde hace más de un cuarto de siglo. Y bueno, empezamos este día con la conferencia.
Yofi, Les, can you put the slides up on the screen? Or share your screen with the slides, PowerPoint? Hello, Les. Are you there, Les?
Okay. Yaffa, you don't want to do it yourself to share? You can share it as well?
I don't know how to do it. I've never done this before. I'm rather new at Zooming. I thought that's why I was sending you the slides.
Okay. I'm not so good at that. Lo, I don't know.
Okay, Jaffa, if you want me,
yeah,
I think I can do it here.
Oh, you can do it?
And
you sure?
I'm having a bit of a problem with mine. They're saying that.
Moshe, go ahead. If you can do it, that would be fine.
There you are. Can you see it?
I just see an email from Yaffa to REA. I don't see PowerPoint slides.
Okay, I'm already sharing it. Okay, please, Leslie, can you stop sharing your screen? I'll share mine.
All right.
I already have it in my computer.
All right.
Can you see it now? I'm already sharing.
Les, can you stop sharing your screen?
Okay, stop share. I've stopped. Okay, there we go. I've stopped sharing.
Okay, now can you put it in slideshow mode, Moshe?
Let me try.
It's up here. See where it says slideshow?
Slideshow. No.
It's up at the top.
Number one.
Number
Needs to be
one.
number one.
No, you have to up here. There's a slideshow. There's a tab called slideshow. Yeah, now you click on the far left button here, right here. The far left button. No, far left. There you go. Okay, now you just click on, when you're ready to change the slide, you just click on the slide and it will give you the next one, okay? By the way, thank you, Lowell and Les, for allowing us to do this lecture. I really, really appreciate your help. This is the first time I've ever done this for Israel and Anousim with so many people as well. And it will go out to many, many more people who couldn't make it because of the time, but they want the presentation afterwards, so they'll get it. You know, everybody who registered and many, many more. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And just want to point everyone's attention to our organization's website here at the bottom. It's just simply b'nai-anousim.org. Okay. And Moshe, if you want to translate that, and then you can go to the next slide.
Muy bien, entonces agradecemos a todos por su presencia, agradecemos a todas las personas que han hecho posible, a Lowell Gallin, Leslie Glassman y todas las personas que están involucradas en el desarrollo del proyecto de Batya Anousim, para todos aquellos que quieran obtener más información respecto a cuál es la finalidad y cuáles son los alcances de este proyecto. Por favor, siéntanse libres de visitar batyanousim.org, así, batyanousim.org, como está aquí en la pantalla. Con mucho gusto ahí pueden obtener información.
Okay, next slide. This photo that you see of me, that is me, is a photo that was taken by a news photographer at a conference held at Knesset, October of 2015, about starting a caucus or a lobby group at the Knesset for the Anousim. And I can talk more about that during the Q&A if you like, if you ask me. But today, I just want to comment briefly because we can talk more also. We see massive corruption in the world. And there are quotes about the end of days. For example, quote, "Let it come, but let me not see it," unquote. Referencing a time of great testing of one's emunah and bitachon. And here's the antidote. So I'm giving you the top information at the very beginning. The antidote to what's going on in the world today is at Micah 6:8, where it says, "What does God require of you, O man?" Not Israel, O man. That means everybody, human. "To do justice, to love kindness, or to love doing kindness, and to walk humbly or modestly with your God," unquote. And this is true of all Jews and all B'nai Noach and everyone in the world. Moshe?
Bien, entonces la foto que pueden ver en la pantalla es una foto mía, dice la Rabanit Deborah Yaffa. Esta foto fue tomada por un fotógrafo profesional en la Knesset en octubre del 2015. Estamos a punto de iniciar un caucus, dice un grupo lobby para discutir ciertos temas en la Knesset. Y esto, bueno, era respecto a también la Fundación Batya Anousim. Podríamos hablar un poquito más sobre esto, sobre qué sucedió en este momento, más tarde, durante el momento de preguntas y respuestas, si ustedes gustan. Hoy vemos corrupción masiva en el mundo y se ven signos sobre el final de los tiempos. Uno de ellos es, deja que venga, pero no me dejes verlo. Y también estamos en un momento en el mundo, en la historia de la humanidad, en la que es una prueba fuerte para la emuná y bitajón de las personas. Sin embargo, también tenemos el antídoto para ello, como está escrito en Miqueas 6:8. y cita así: ¿qué es lo que Dios quiere de ti, oh hombre? Y aquí hace énfasis Yaffa y dice, oh hombre, no estamos hablando de Israel, sino oh hombre, es decir, toda la humanidad. Y requiere de ti hacer justicia, amar la bondad o amar comportarse con bondad, caminar humildemente y con modestia con tu Dios. Esto es una verdad para todos los judíos y para también los Bnei Noach.
Okay, next slide. So I just want to explain I'm a descendant of the Sephardi Jews who were persecuted in Spain and Portugal over 500 years ago now by the Roman Catholic monarchs. By the way, Spain had issued the Alhambra Decree, which is the same as the Edict of Expulsion, in 1492. About half of the Yehudim, the Jews, went over the border into Portugal, according to the historians, where 5 years later, they were altogether forcibly converted and then persecuted by the Inquisition for almost 300 years, including being followed into the New World. So the Inquisition also went to the New World after the crypto Jews, the secret Jews, went there. Moshe?
Bien, estamos entonces entrando a lo que es la información biográfica. Y nos dice Yaffa, soy una descendiente de judíos sefaradim, quienes fueron perseguidos en España y Portugal hace más de 500 años por la Iglesia Católica Romana y los reyes. Para ese entonces, España lanzó lo denominado el decreto de Alhambra, que es un edicto de expulsión. Esto inició en 1492. Para entonces, más o menos la mitad de los Yehudim trataron de escapar y se fueron a las fronteras de Portugal, donde 5 años después fueron convertidos de manera forzada. Y entonces inició una persecución adicional por la Inquisición por cerca de 330 años. Esto incluyendo ser perseguidos en lo llamado entonces el Nuevo Mundo.
My mother's family was from the Portuguese islands in the Atlantic Ocean, the Azores. And I made a full return to the people of my ancestors in 2000. I've had this nonprofit here in Israel for 16 years now, helping others who have the same ancestry and who are truly trying to make a comeback from being secretly Jews or Yehudim to being openly accepted as part of Am Israel, of the people of Israel. And we're blocked today, this people, from immigrating to the land of our exiled ancestors, predominantly for those who live in Latin American countries. Whereas Spain and Portugal today are accepting as citizens those who can show that they're descended from the forced converts. The prayers of our ancestors will one day be realized for their descendants to rejoin the majority of the Jewish people, meaning accepted by them, and to have the same rights to return to the Jewish homeland as all other Jews who want to return to ancestral lands. In Purim of 2022, as Lowell mentioned, I'll have my 30th anniversary of involvement with this B'nai Anousim movement. Moshe?
Muy bien, dice que por la familia de su madre, ellos provienen de las islas portuguesas del Océano Atlántico llamado los Azores. Dice también que hizo un completo retorno a su pueblo, al pueblo de sus ancestros, en el año 2000. Ha tenido una fundación en Israel ya por 16 años, una fundación sin fines de lucro que ayuda a otros que tienen la misma condición respecto a sus ancestros. Ahora bien, muchos de ellos siguen haciendo el esfuerzo por regresar y pasar de ser Yehudim en lo secreto a ser aceptados abiertamente como parte del pueblo de Israel. Hoy en día estamos bloqueados respecto a la inmigración a la tierra de nuestros ancestros exiliados, predominantemente para aquellos que viven en países de Latinoamérica. Sin embargo, al día de hoy, España y Portugal están aceptando ciudadanos. Aquellos que puedan demostrar que son descendientes de aquellos conversos forzados, y vemos que las oraciones de nuestros ancestros algún día podrán llegar a ser una realidad, pues sus descendientes pueden recuperar y pueden reconectarse con la mayor parte del pueblo de Israel y ser aceptados por ellos y tener también los mismos derechos de regresar a sus tierras ancestrales. Para Purim del 2022 habré cumplido mi aniversario número 30 de estar envuelta en este movimiento de Bnei Anousim.
Okay, next slide. There have been many forms of abuse and exploitation against the B'nai Anousim over the years. I've been told many, many stories about this for the 30 years or so. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is cancel culture. It's talked about a lot today in the United States, of course. But according to the Torah, when someone gets angry at someone else because of a difference in their opinion or their perspective or hashkafa, their worldview, etc., that anger is a form of idol worship, according to quite a few sources. And in the Zohar specifically, it's taught that we need to distance ourselves from people who get angry and act out from that anger. Also, we're taught to distance ourselves from a rasha, an evil person. So it doesn't make the angry person a rasha, but we're supposed to distance ourselves from them because it's a very bad influence and it's a form of idol worship. The Torah's lifestyle is about noam, the Hebrew word for pleasantness, and shalom, peace. And there's no room for anger or idolatry. However, the kind of cancel culture done by most people today is to distance from others based on the other person's opinions or perspective, which is not according to the Torah at all. And everyone should be able to discuss in a civil and a kind manner all differences of opinion and not get angry or punish another person because of their disagreements by canceling them, in air quotes, or from their lives. This is not according to the Torah at all. And it's a malicious form of abuse and exploitation. By the way, Cain was the first one to exhibit cancel culture by killing another human. Go ahead, Moshe.
Bien, quisiera tocar algunos puntos sobre el abuso y explotación que han sufrido los Bnei Anousim a lo largo de la historia, casos que han sucedido ya más o menos desde hace 30 años que está envuelta en todo ello. Hay una cultura de cancelación y la Shonara que de repente se maneja en torno a Bnei Anousim. Entonces, inicia diciendo que acorde a la Torah, cuando una persona, cuando alguien se enoja en contra de alguien por alguna diferencia en opinión, perspectiva, shkafá, etc., este enojo es una forma de idolatría. Y el Zohar, algunas otras fuentes más, es mencionado que necesitamos distanciarnos nosotros de estas personas que actúan con un enojo y a los cuales pueden denominarse como Reshaim o Rasha. Entonces, no quiere decir que la persona que se enoja se convierte en un Rasha inmediatamente, pero sí que es una forma inadecuada de actuar y estar cerca de personas que tienden a comportarse de esa manera es una mala influencia para uno mismo. Sin embargo, tenemos una sugerencia y la Torah nos dice cómo debería ser el estilo de vida de una persona. Debería ser como Noam, que significa una forma de ser placentera, y Shalom, que podría traducirse como paz. Y no hay en realidad un espacio que debería ser dejado para el enojo. Vamos a llamarlo también idolatría. Sin embargo, la forma de cultura de cancelación que ha sido desarrollada por la mayor parte de gente hoy en día es un distanciamiento de otros basado en la opinión de una persona o su perspectiva, que no va acorde a la Torá de ninguna forma. Cada uno debería tener la posibilidad de poder discutir y entablar una conversación de una forma civilizada y con formas. Todas las diferencias de opinión y no enojarse o castigar a otra persona por algún desacuerdo que puedan llegar a tener, cancelándolos. Es decir, em, simplemente arrancándolos de sus vidas. Esto no va acorde a la Torah de ninguna forma y esto es una forma maliciosa de abuso y explotación. Tenemos que saber que Caín fue el primero que desarrolló esta forma de cancelación cuando por una diferencia de opinión fue capaz de matar a su hermano para demostrar que él tenía la razón.
Okay, so I think you read this, but I'm not sure, that the antidote to the inappropriate form of cancel culture is, quote, I have given you a good teaching. Do not forsake my Torah. It's a tree of life for those who grasp it, and its supporters are praiseworthy. Its ways are pleasantness, Noam, and all of its paths are peace, Shalom. Bring us back to you, Hashem, and we shall return, renew our days as of old. And that's from the Rosh Hashanah Maksor, by the way. So, Moshe, did you read the other items on this list of abuse and exploitation?
Yes, I read them.
You
Want to
translated
continue
them?
I'm translating from the English, so since I'm dealing with the
No, it's okay.
slides.
But you did numbers 3 through 9 or 8, whatever?
Yes.
Okay. So there's been, I'm just going to add a little bit here. There's been a lot of financial exploitation, people using conversions as a business model, converting the B'nai Anousim, and also telling them they have to convert, they can't return. There was a woman here in Israel many years ago who was told by some man that she had to convert because she might have been descended from Mamzerim. It's a terrible thing to say to her. She didn't even know what the word meant. He had to explain it to her. And goes into this whole hypothetical of, well, if some woman in the female line of her mother got divorced without getting a bill of divorce from her husband and then married another man and had children and blah, blah, blah. This whole thing was a hypothetical to begin with. And he used that to explain to her why she had to convert and she couldn't return. She left Israel and swore she would never set foot in this country again. It was a horrible experience for her. There have been women preyed upon by rabbis to become concubines for them. It's a horrible thing that they have heter to do this. So all kinds of things going on in the world, as you can imagine. There was a woman stalked by a Haredi man and threatened because of this thing about being a returnee instead of a convert. Not that there's anything wrong with a convert, by the way. Libel, slander and libel. Anousim, again, told that there's no such thing as return. Everybody has to convert, which has them, by the way, saying a blessing in vain when they go into the mikveh. If they are from the B'nai Anousim, they're still Jewish. Their ancestors were secretly Jewish, but a secret Jew is still a Jew by halacha. We'll get into the Rambam if people want later, if you ask me. The Rambam's halacha. And then Ashkenazi rabbis compelling conversions and telling the convert, now they're an Ashkenazi Jew, not letting them be observant of the Sephardi minhag, etc. So if you want to translate any of that, Moshe, but I'm just doing some highlights from there.
Bien, entonces, hace ratito, antes de entrar en los puntos nombrados, también nos dijo, hay un antídoto para esta forma inapropiada, una cultura de cancelación, es decir, cancelas a la otra persona, la haces desaparecer simplemente porque no va con tu opinión. Y nos cita un verso del Tanaj diciendo, no olviden mi Torah, pues es un árbol de vida para aquellos que se adhieren a ella. Y quienes la soportan son alabados. Y sus caminos son caminos placenteros y todos sus senderos son de paz. Shalom. Es como lo traía anteriormente. Y después dice, tráenos de regreso a ti, oh Hashem, y nosotros regresaremos. Renueva nuestros días como antaño. Este es un extracto del Mahzor de Rosh Hashanah. Ahora bien, dentro de los tópicos respecto al abuso y explotación que han sufrido Bnei Anousim por parte de diferentes sectores religiosos, dice la ponente, ha habido muchas historias sobre explotación financiera por parte de rabinos pidiendo muchísimos dólares para poder realizar una conversión o para entregar un documento de conversión y al final de cuentas, de repente este documento ni siquiera valía un centavo. Conoció la historia de una mujer que le fue dicha por un hombre judío que necesitaba o tenía que convertirse, pues probablemente era descendiente de mamzerim, que son bastardos, según la traducción. Ella recibió esta explicación de un caso hipotético, pero fue referida como una anusá, una persona que se divorció y se casó sin tener un get, y que si ella no lo hacía, sus hijos y todos sus descendientes serían entonces mamzerim o bastardos. Al final de cuentas, esta mujer estuvo en una situación de tanta presión y se vio tan ofuscada por ello que decidió simplemente dejar Israel y nunca volver a poner un pie allí. Ha habido historias de rabinos ortodoxos que le piden a mujeres, a Nusim, convertirse en sus concubinas para usarlas de esta manera, y esto siempre y cuando vayan a la migbe cada mes. Ha habido también, y conoció la historia de una mujer que fue presionada y amenazada por un hombre jaredí porque estaba promoviendo todas estas ideas del retorno. Y en especial una carta de Ramor de Jaeliao al respecto. Y también ha habido muchas historias de Anusim que tienen la presión encima o que les dicen que deben convertirse. Esto podría considerarse conversiones forzadas y que no hay o no existe esto llamado retorno. También ha habido situaciones respecto de rabinos ashkenazim que convierten Bnei Anusim y después de ello les dicen que ahora tienen que desarrollarse en torno a la tradición ashkenazim, no dándoles la posibilidad siquiera de desarrollarse como judíos sefaradí.
Great. Okay, next slide. Before I get into talking about Israel and Anousim, Moshe, I'm just going to add a couple of comments here that before I got into all of this about the Anousim, I was a Bat Noach in Texas, working with Vendel Jones in Vendel Jones Research Institutes in Arlington, Texas. And so I have a huge area of my heart also for the B'nai Noach. Now, I don't know if B'nai Noach people have experienced any kind of abuse, because I know a lot of people in the B'nai Noach world, but I'm not as close to it anymore since I got into all the stuff I've been doing about Ezra and Anousim. So I just wanted to draw that connection. I have said for years to quite a few friends that I see two movements coming towards Israel. If you want to know more about how I think about the B'nai Noach side as a movement, I'll explain that during the Q&A. Moshe?
Además, me gustaría, nos dice la ponente, hacerles saber que durante un tiempo estuve involucrada con el movimiento de Bnei Noach. Fui también una Bat Noach antes de hacer todo este proceso de retorno. En particular, en Vendel Jones, en Texas, por lo cual tengo un lugar muy grande en mi corazón destinado para todos los Bnei Noach. He sabido también de lo difícil que puede ser desenvolverse como tal. En particular, dentro de la ponencia de esta tarde en Israel, no estamos tocando tanto el tema de los Bnei Noach, pero quiere que sepan que esta conexión fue desarrollada a partir de iniciar como Bnei Noach.
Y hasta que no vences eso, te quedas ahí varado.
Okay, so I'm going to go on. I was in the business world for a long time, and from the skills and expertise that Hashem had me acquire there, for example, management, administration, coaching, project, and program management. From all of that, I started this Israeli nonprofit to help the forced ones. Anousim means the forced ones or compelled ones. And today I have a staff almost 30 around the world, managing directors, and very many activists that are involved with us. And we are the only organization in the world of all volunteers, first of all, the majority of which are also from the B'nai Anousim. And I feel like this is my tafkid. In Hebrew, tafkid is mission or purpose in being here in this world. That's why I think I'm here, especially at this time. So we're helping both individuals and communities of B'nai Anousim worldwide, but with a special focus on Latin America. And I'm going to talk about Latin America mainly because people in the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, Philippines, all kinds of places in the world, it's not so hard for them. It's not a trap, which it is in Latin America. So we have a major focus on Latin America, but we help everybody who comes to us asking for help in returning, in coming back, whether it's through conversion or actual certificate of return to their Sephardi roots. Okay, Moshe.
Muy bien, entonces me gustaría también darles información respecto a por qué estoy involucrada en este proyecto. Mi organización se llama Esral Anousim, es una organización sin fines de lucro y a partir de los de estas de este conocimiento que pude haber desarrollado y la experiencia que Hashem me ayudó a adquirir y desarrollar en el mundo de los negocios, he trabajado como gerente general en la administración, también entrenamiento y el manejo de programas, y también inicié mi proyecto desde una asociación llamada HELP, a aquellos que fueron forzados, ayuda a aquellos que fueron forzados. Y al día de hoy tengo un staff, tengo un equipo de trabajo de cerca de 30 personas, más o menos, que son directores generales en todo el mundo. Y muchos otros activistas también. Tenemos que decir que somos la única organización en donde todos son voluntarios. La mayor parte de ellos son B'nai Anousim. Este es ahora mi aniversario número 30. Lo nombramos hace ratito. Llegará el momento del 2022, en Purim, y me alegro de haber estado involucrada tanto tiempo en este movimiento, ayudando a los B'nai Anousim. Este es mi tafkid, dice ella. Esto es una palabra en hebreo que significa: esta es mi misión y propósito en la vida. Y es mi propósito por estar aquí en este mundo y en este momento. Ayudar a tanto individuos como comunidades de B'nai Anousim para que puedan hacer su regreso abierta y públicamente a la fe y tradiciones de nuestros ancestros sefaradim de España y Portugal. Hay que hacer notar, dice también, que probablemente sea un poco ajeno para gente en Europa, en Australia, en los Estados Unidos, Canadá, que sea tan difícil
Oh, I'm sorry,
regresar.
Moshe. I'm sorry. Can you move the slide? I didn't read this part yet. Next slide. I forgot to put the word stop. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the obstacles within Israel. So we're going to have two sections of obstacles, one within Israel and one within the B'nai Anousim movement. Okay, the first one is return to the land of our ancestors is denied for the majority of the B'nai Anousim in Latin America because of a discriminatory administrative policy of the Ministry of Interior of Israel. That policy will not allow B'nai Anousim from Latin America countries to immigrate. And the High Court, the Israeli Supreme Court, cannot help us either, we just learned recently. And it would take the Knesset to make a modification to the law of return, which is the secular law about immigration to Israel. Or it would take a different type of minister of the interior to head that ministry. Most of Israel has no clue about this discrimination. Absolutely none. Most of the Jewish world in general, either globally or locally, has no clue about this discrimination. It's the elephant in the room. Air quotes. Go ahead, Moshe.
Bien, comenzaremos a desarrollar algunos puntos adicionales. Comencemos por los obstáculos que hay en Israel mismo. Regresar a la tierra de nuestros ancestros ha sido negada por causa de una política administrativa discriminatoria del Ministerio de Interior de Israel. Esta política no permitirá que los Bnei Anousim de países de Latinoamérica inmigren. La Suprema Corte de Justicia no puede ayudarnos. Justo nos enteramos hace poco tiempo al respecto. Y sería necesario que la Knesset hiciera una modificación en lo conocido como la ley del retorno o algún otro tipo diferente de ministerio acorde al Ministerio de Interior haga cambios al respecto. Sin embargo, la mayor parte de Israel ni siquiera tiene una pista respecto de esta discriminación. Vamos a llamar la mayor parte de los pobladores de Israel. Y la mayor parte del mundo judío no tiene tampoco idea que hay una política de discriminación al respecto. Vamos a llamar a esta política de discriminación el elefante en el cuarto.
Right. By the way, I forgot to say that the emerging communities in Latin America have been developing over time. In Brazil, they've been working on it for like 17 or 18 years because the Jewish communities in Latin America won't accept them. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later. If you can translate, Moshe.
Bien, también quiero añadir, dice que las comunidades emergentes de Latinoamérica han estado formándose y desarrollándose desde hace 17, 18 años en respuesta a estas políticas por parte de comunidades judías en el mundo, y es algo conocido su desarrollo en la actualidad.
Okay, next slide, please. The obstacles within the B'nai Anousim movement. Perhaps the biggest obstacle for the B'nai Anousim is their belief that the Jewish world doesn't want them to come back. That's partly due to the lack of help and support from Israel, and no indication that that's going to change. And it's also partly because of the Jews worldwide who tell them to just be B'nai Noach. And that's all they have to do. Because it's been so many years since their ancestors were openly and publicly Jewish. Now, by the way, I'm making generalizations. There's always exceptions, and we work with people who are exceptional and who represent the exceptions, okay? So I'm making general statements, but that's because that's the majority. That's the reality out there. The majority do not encourage the B'nai Anousim. Now, also in some families, there's a fear of outsiders that's still very strong. It's the way the majority of the B'nai Anousim were raised. I was raised that way myself. There's no such thing as friends. You can't trust anyone outside of the family. Why? Well, that goes back to the Inquisition, where people would be reported to the Inquisition authorities by neighbors, by so-called friends, by people who might be serving in the household as a maid or a cook or whatever. So we were, most of us, all raised with this idea of there's no such thing as friends and you can't trust anyone outside the family. So for some individuals, they might be getting pressure or pushback from family members of theirs to not make it public knowledge that the family was once Jewish. They might also fear the local Catholic community. The Alhambra decree, the edict of expulsion, was not finally and officially revoked by Spain until 1968. A mere 55 years ago was when the civil government finally officially revoked that expulsion edict. So for some family members of the B'nai Anousim who might want to return, they might fear pushback or a reaction from their family members. Moshe?
Veamos ahora los obstáculos que tenemos dentro mismo de los Bnei Anousim. Por decir, tal vez el obstáculo más grande para los Bnei Anousim sea su creencia que el mundo judío no los quiere de regreso. Esto parcialmente por la falta de ayuda y soporte por Israel. Y también parcialmente porque los judíos alrededor del mundo siempre les dicen que se comporten y se queden como Bnei Noach. Ahora, aquí es necesario aclarar, dice, estoy generalizando, por supuesto hay excepciones y hay gente que ha ayudado, pero la visión general y global es esta en torno a los Bnei Anousim. Ahora bien, esto de presionar a que se queden como Bnei Noach ha sido una constante durante muchos años y muy probablemente porque sus ancestros ya dejaron de ser públicamente judíos, aunque en algún momento lo hayan sido. Sin embargo, en otras familias lo que permea es el miedo a aquellos ajenos a la familia que podrían presentar una amenaza para la familia en caso de que se enteraran de que esta familia es descendiente de Bnei Anousim. Es decir, de repente inculcaron en las familias, ¿sabes qué? Ten cuidado con tus amigos, ten cuidado con la gente con la que te relacionas y no les digas en ningún momento que somos judíos, pues esto podría llevarnos a que nos denuncien y esto promueve el miedo dentro de las familias. Esto es una forma muy normal en cómo los Bnei Anousim fueron criados. La ponente nos dice, incluso yo fui criada de esta manera. Por lo tanto, para algunos individuos, esto puede generar presión o una sensación de hacerlos retroceder en su intención. Parte por gente fuera de la familia, pero también por miembros de la familia que no quieren hacer del conocimiento público que en algún momento la familia fue procedente de judíos. También pueden llegar a estar con cierto temor respecto de la comunidad católica local. Tenemos que saber que el decreto de Alhambra fue cancelado hace apenas unos años, estamos hablando en 1968, que todavía era válido. Hace cerca de 55 años fue cancelado, entonces es algo muy actual en la mente de las familias de Bnei Anousim.
Yofi. Okay, next slide, please. The alternatives for the B'nai Anousim. You can see from the slide my outline, there's three ways the B'nai Anousim can come back, if we want to say it that way. One is to find proof, which is very rare, by the way. That would be a document that substantiates the Jewishness of a woman in the person's mother's female line, going way, way, way back. That would be proof, like say from the Inquisition, that she was Jewish and she was persecuted in the Inquisition. That would be an example of proof. A second way is very strong evidences of that person's ancestry, again, on the mother's female line of secret Jews. That's what I did. I had very, very strong evidences for all of it, all four categories. And they can get a return certificate. And that is accepted for immigration, by the way, to Israel, a return certificate. Because essentially what the rabbis say of the Beit Din is, we accept you as most likely Jewish, and we'd like you to go into the mikveh for the sake of purity because you've never been in the mikveh before. okay? But not for the sake of changing status from Gentile to Jewish, because we accept that you're Jewish, so you don't say the blessing of the convert. This is what the return is all about. And 3 is conversion. If they don't have any evidence, or they actually are from non-Jews, not B'nai Anousim. They could be also from conversos, who were people who converted, perhaps under duress, but they fully assimilated into the Catholic world. They didn't carry on customs and traditions like the B'nai Anousim. They're called conversos. So they can convert back, okay? And I'll explain more about that later. And then there's a 4th category, and some people are doing this, living as a Jew without any acceptance of anyone, because it's so hard to get accepted. They've just given up. And they just live as a Jew as best they can. Go ahead, Moshe.
Bien, tenemos ahora las alternativas que pueden ser posibles para Bnei Anousim. Hay 3 formas básicas para que los Bnei Anousim regresen. Una de ellas es encontrar una prueba, que es un documento que pueda comprobar sustancialmente la judeidad de una línea materna, y esta línea tiene que proceder hasta las épocas de la Inquisición, lo cual, dice el ponente, es bastante complicado en algunos casos. El segundo punto es encontrar evidencias fuertes como las que ella tuvo y presentó ante el Bedín respecto a que su línea materna descendía de judíos que vivían en secreto. Y entonces incluso podría recibir un certificado de retorno por parte del Estado de Israel, lo que te ayuda en un proceso migratorio. Ahora bien, dice también ella, hay que entender cómo es que esto se maneja al momento de ser entrevistado por el Bedín. El Bedín, que es un tribunal rabínico, acepta a la persona que prueba que tiene una línea materna ininterrumpida y la trae a anexarse al pueblo de Israel no como un converso, sino como una persona que regresa, baja a la mikve, no haciendo la bendición como lo haría un converso, sino por el hecho de que no había estado en una situación de pureza anteriormente, pero como se desarrolla el Bedín es como una forma de retorno. La tercera podría ser a través de la conversión al judaísmo. Si la persona no tiene ninguna de estas pruebas o evidencias fuertes al respecto. Y la cuarta, antes es necesario decir que si alguna persona está interesada en ello, dice la ponente que más tarde podrían hablar o hacer preguntas en torno a ello. La cuarta es vivir como un judío, incluso sin ser aceptado abiertamente y viviendo allí en donde quiera sea la localidad, desarrollándote como un judío.
Okay, next slide, please. Moshe, I'm going to skip a little bit because I want to talk about the catch-22. What happened is, starting in 1927, the Syrian community in Argentina, Jewish people from Syria who moved to Argentina, developed a community ruling called a takana, that they wouldn't accept converts or reverts, that's their word for a returnee from the B'nai Anousim, into their communities. And this later was accepted, this is what I understand happened. Later, that community ruling was accepted by the Ashkenazi Jewish communities in Argentina. Then over time, more and more Jewish communities accepted this ruling. And again, it's a generalization. There may be some exceptions in Latin American countries, but the majority follow this ruling. Okay. Now, the difficulty comes about, the catch-22, is that for Aliyah to Israel, the Ministry of Interior says that people have to convert, if they're going to convert, in the context of a recognized and active Jewish community and live in that community, be a member and a part of that community while they're learning through the conversion and for 9 months after the conversion. Okay, this is their rule. Well, these people in these Latin American countries who cannot join the Jewish community and convert that way, create their own, what the government calls emerging communities of all converts by definition. And so there's no way they can qualify for Aliyah because they don't meet this criteria from the Ministry of Interior. Okay, so they're not accepted for Aliyah to Israel. In Colombia alone, there's more than 1,000 people who have already converted and would like to make Aliyah, and they're blocked and the door is shut. Okay. Now, the Ministry of Interior won't accept them because they didn't convert within a recognized community, but they won't accept these communities as recognized communities either. So it's a catch-22. And some people say it can't be broken, and I say it can be broken. Okay, Moshe.
Vamos a hablar de este Catch-22. Vamos a llamarlo callejón sin salida. En el año de 1927 se salió a la luz una takaná, una regla para una comunidad, una regla restrictiva respecto a las conversiones. Esto inició en Argentina, en una comunidad siria en Argentina. Y esto tenía que ver con situaciones que estaban sucediendo políticas en ese momento, que llegó a afectar también a toda la gente que podría denominarse como Bene Anousim, allá en Argentina. Sucedió que con el tiempo también la comunidad ashkenazí de Argentina adoptó esta takaná, cerrando sus puertas a hacer conversiones y cerrando sus puertas a aceptar conversos. A lo largo del tiempo, esta takaná se volvió mucho más popular y otras comunidades en toda América Latina la adoptaron como algo normal. Y la regla es que las comunidades judías no aceptan conversos como miembros, ya sea conversos o retornados, vamos a llamarlo así, a las comunidades locales. Sin embargo, y donde viene el callejón sin salida aquí en Latinoamérica, es que cuando te presentas al Estado de Israel para promover una solicitud para conversión, ellos te dicen que uno de los requisitos es que te hayas establecido y tengas una recomendación por parte de una comunidad en el país en donde te hayas estado desarrollando. Y si es en Latinoamérica, pues esto es imposible. Por un lado te dan la opción y esta opción viene cancelada por la política de la comunidad. Por lo tanto, es un callejón sin salida. Sin embargo, ciertas comunidades crearon una posible salida al respecto. Es decir, si no hay una comunidad que me respalde, vamos a crear nuestras propias comunidades, lo que se conoce como comunidades emergentes. El problema es que el Estado de Israel no reconoce, aunque estas comunidades están formadas por conversos en su mayor parte, no son reconocidas siquiera como comunidades y no pueden solicitar por parte de sus miembros la aliyá para Israel. Por lo tanto, el callejón sin salida llamado Catch 22 está en torno a que la mayor parte de Bnei Anousim no pueden hacer aliyá de Latinoamérica. Es notable que cerca de 1,000 personas están solo en Colombia conversos y están imposibilitados de poder hacer aliyá al Estado de Israel por esta política y este callejón sin salida que se presenta en torno a la Tekaná en Latinoamérica.
Okay, thank you, Moshe. Next slide, please. So we have these barriers to success for the B'nai Anousim. And Moshe, I'm going to go off script because I'm going to try to shorten up so we can get to the Q&A. There are some people, they're very well-meaning. I love them with all my heart. But they like to quote demographic experts with speculation about this population and how many people of the B'nai Anousim there actually might be in the world. I've heard 100 million to 500 million. I think some people are now landing on 200 million. Of course, we don't know exactly how many B'nai Anousim there are in the world. We don't know if this speculation includes the conversos, the people I call conversos, who are descended from the forced converts of Spain and Portugal, but their ancestors fully assimilated. So I don't know if they include those people. But when I say B'nai Anousim, I'm only talking about the people who carried on customs and traditions as best they could with a lot of fear. Okay. That doesn't help our movement. It doesn't help our movement because it frightens people, especially in Israel. 200 million people, where are we going to put 200 million? There are only 9 million people in Israel right now. Okay. So it's very unfortunate. I understand why some people like to talk about this, but I think the better way to talk about this is we're not sure how many people there are, but let's just start a project to bring in 50,000 B'nai Anousim into Israel, especially from Latin America, because from other countries, they don't have so much trouble. Let's just start. Bring in 50,000, see how many people apply. Maybe not even all the B'nai Anousim would want to come to Israel. Come on. So long as we've got so many people, there's a few, that keep talking about this and focused on the speculation of the demographic numbers, potential demographic numbers, it's really a barrier. The second one I've already mentioned, concern about family members being fearful. The third one is, again, the majority of rabbis telling B'nai Anousim they must convert, they can't return. It's a barrier to people because they believe that they're Jews already, because their ancestors were Jews. They remember grandmothers, okay, lighting candles, great-grandmothers, whatever, lighting candles on a Friday night and other things. And the more they learn about Jews and Judaism and custom and tradition, they know where they come from. So it's really a major barrier. We're trying to help with that, obviously. And people who decide, well, why don't I just study as a B'nai Noach first? And then if I think I want to become a Jew, I'll convert later. Unfortunately, the majority of the people that help B'nai Noach, that are interested in the B'nai Noach movement, and again, I love them, most of them are in Chabad, but the Chabad rabbis won't help people to convert. So if they go that route, then they get into a community, okay, where the rabbi won't let them go any further, won't let them study anything except the mitzvot Sheva Noach, and now they're stuck in that sense. Okay, Moshe, I kind of summarized that.
Bien, tenemos aquellas barreras para que los B'nai Anousim puedan tener éxito en su búsqueda. Y dice la ponente, tengo que reconocer que hay gente con muy, muy buena intención, los amo de todo corazón, y empiezan a generar números al respecto. Es decir, al tener una situación con tantos números, tenemos también una situación muy importante. Tal vez alrededor del mundo haya 100 millones de B'nai Anousim y los números pueden saltar hasta los 500 millones de B'nai Anousim. Pero el especular respecto a los números no nos ayuda, nos dice Yaffa, porque al final de cuentas, imagínense a las comunidades. Esto es terrorífico para ellos. De repente pensar también en el Estado de Israel y que digan, ¿dónde vamos a meter a 500 millones de B'nai Anousim? O vamos a poner una media, 200 millones. Apenas podemos lidiar con 14 millones. Ahora, ¿dónde vamos a meter a tantos más? Entonces, no nos ayuda la especulación diciendo, wow, es que hay tanta gente que tiene que regresar. Por otro lado, tenemos que probablemente dentro de estos números incluyan a aquellos conversos que fueron forzados, que perdieron una línea, que perdieron una forma de comprobar a sus ancestros y se convirtieron después al judaísmo. No estamos seguros, dice Yaffa, si siquiera todos aquellos B'nai Anousim que tengan la posibilidad en algún momento de ir a Israel quieran hacerlo. ¿Por qué no plantear una situación en la que apliquen tal vez 50,000 B'nai Anousim en Latinoamérica, que vean los requerimientos, siquiera algunos de ellos lo puedan hacer, no yéndonos a números tan estratosféricos? Probablemente la solución sea poner un número bajo el cual podríamos hacer un ejercicio de ver siquiera si todos los Bnei Anousim tienen la intención de emigrar a Israel. El punto número 2 tiene que ver con el miedo, se tocó hace un momento más, el hecho que tal vez miembros de la familia tengan aún miedo, conserven el miedo de ser etiquetados como judíos. El tercero es que muchos rabinos, la mayoría de ellos, dice Yaffa, le dice a los Bnei Anousim que necesitan convertirse, es decir, no existe tal cosa como un retorno. Sin embargo, hay gente que es consciente, que tiene pruebas y que vio a su tatarabuela incluso encender candelas de Shabbat, que sabe que su línea materna ha sido constante e ininterrumpida. En todo caso, no deberían acceder a semejante cosa. El cuarto punto es, muchas veces te dejan la opción de estudiar y de quedarte como un Bnei Noach. Inicia como tal, sin embargo, no te previenen respecto al siguiente paso. Hay mucha gente muy bien intencionada, sucede en comunidades en Bet Chabad, que los rabinos los ayudan, les enseñan las 7 reglas de Bnei Noach básicas, pero de ahí en fuera, toda vez que la política de Chabad no hacen conversiones, tampoco los llevan o los instruyen para llegar en un momento más a una conversión, sino que se quedan estancados en este proceso.
I do want to mention one exception, however, with the Chabad, and there's both good and bad with it. There's a rabbi in Florida, a Chabad rabbi, who helps the B'nai Anousim, Baruch Hashem. Okay, he helps them. He believes in helping the B'nai Anousim, and I mean to become Jews. Okay, to actually fully come back. Unfortunately, the unfortunate part is he gets criticized by Chabad colleagues, other rabbis in Chabad, that he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. Okay, and there are other people who suffer from criticism, either private or public, for what they're trying to do to help the B'nai Anousim. He's not the only one, but I wanted to make, I'm not going to mention his name, but I wanted to give him a certain, positive mention, acknowledgement, because he's helped over 100. And I don't remember if that's individuals or families. I'll be honest, I don't remember, but he's helped a lot of people and he's been doing it for about 20 years. So he's an honorable mention. Okay, Moshe, we're going to move on. And the only other thing I want to mention, which in my notes I put in, but I'm going fast here to open it up to questions. You can go move the slide, Moshe. Thank you. Yeah, there's that elephant. We are working with a lot of rabbis and Beit Din to help the B'nai Anousim. We have 3 Beit Din in Israel we can go to. We have 3 Beit Din in the United States we can go to. And we have 3 Beit Din in Latin America that we can go to, okay, either for conversion or return. And many of them are accepted by the Rabbanut. So again, there wouldn't be difficulty with their papers for Aliyah. And we're trying to get more every day. And again, Les and Lowell, I thank you so very, very much for allowing us to do this lecture here on Zoom, because it's going to be sent out to a lot more people to get a lot more support for this movement. And I just want to say about this photo, the classic elephant in the room is something that everyone knows about and no one will talk about. And to my knowledge, this is the first time that we're talking about these kinds of things. Some of them aren't so pleasant to hear about or to know about, okay? But most of the people that are involved with the B'nai Anousim movement know about the takana in Latin America, know about the injustice of it, know that it's totally against the Torah. How many times? 36 times we're commanded in the Torah to love the ger, okay? But practically no one will talk about this injustice and this discrimination against the B'nai Anousim publicly. I'm talking about mentioning it publicly, that it's a major, major barrier to helping these people. I don't know of anyone talking about it, and neither have I until this Zoom meeting. I've talked about it in private to a lot of people, and in some other lectures that I've given, but not like this. So again, Les and Lowell, thank you very much. So that's the elephant business. Now the next slide, Moshe, what can we do about this situation or these situations? First of all, we could expose the elephant that people don't want to talk about. It has to be talked about. You can't solve a problem you can't define. Can't fix something that you can't even talk about. And it's, to me, in my way of looking at everything from 30 years perspective, what's going on is a continuation of the injustice against the descendants of the forced converts in Spain and Portugal. It's a continuation. These people have had this injustice happen to our ancestors, of course, and all the generations between them and us, and now even today. We still have to, the people of the B'nai Anousim, have to suffer from this injustice, or if you want to call it discrimination. We need to have public advocacy about demanding justice for the B'nai Anousim. We need to make appeals to all of these organizations within Israel to streamline the process to help the B'nai Anousim. Hasn't worked thus far, but it will. Eventually it will, and I'll tell you why later. And I have a program of teaching advocacy skills to people so they can get more involved with the B'nai Anousim as activists, as advocates. Okay, Moshe.
Bien, nos dice Yaffa que vale la pena mencionar a un rabino de Chabad. Si mencionamos generalidades, es bueno destacar la labor que un rabino de Chabad ha hecho para ayudar a más de 100 conversos procedentes de B'nai Anousim allá en Florida. Y a pesar de que está haciendo una labor loable, desinteresada, ha recibido críticas por parte de sus colegas mismo en Chabad. Sin embargo, él sigue ayudando y lo ha hecho más o menos desde hace 20 años. Ahora, hablando del elefante en el cuarto, estamos hablando de una figura en la que todos saben de ello, del tema, pero nadie quiere hablar, quiere decirlo. Es decir, todo mundo que está envuelto en temas de ayudar a B'nai Anousim, en temas del desarrollo, de conversiones y demás, sabemos que está el elefante en el cuarto. ¿Cuál es este elefante? La tacaná. Y en torno a esto tenemos que también dirigir nuestros esfuerzos. Probablemente este sea una de las primeras pláticas abiertas que se tiene sobre el tema, cómo abordarlo y cómo tratar de mejorar la situación a partir de ahora. Por eso, ¿qué podemos hacer ya que tenemos esta situación encima? Primero, nos dice Yaffa, exponer este elefante en el cuarto, es decir, hablar sobre ello, reconocerlo como lo que es y prevenir la continuación de esta injusticia en contra de los B'nai Anousim, una política discriminatoria en contra de ellos. Por otro lado, hacer una defensa pública demandando justicia para los B'nai Anousim. Y en ese sentido, dice Yaffa, yo he promovido, tenemos clases en torno a enseñar a la gente cómo hacer una defensa pública en estos temas. También la idea es apelar al Ministerio de Interior, al Rabinato, a los miembros de la Knesset y a diferentes otros grupos para que puedan abogar, para que puedan presentar quejas y de esta manera generar un cambio en la política y en este elefante blanco, elefante enorme que no deja movernos en torno a lo que estamos buscando para los B'nai Anousim.
Okay, next slide, please. So this is the call to action part to recruit more people to help this movement in all kinds of ways. We need just advocates, social media people, truth tellers, lobby groups, obviously more rabbis. I'm working on that personally. I also have a managing director for rabbinic coordination who's working on it. We have the commandment in Deuteronomy, Tzedek you shall pursue, that, hopefully would inspire some people. We also have Micah 6:8, which I read already. And in all volunteer organization, people choose how much time they want to commit to working on what tasks most match their skills and expertise that they already have, or tasks that match things that they'd like to learn how to do, or some combination of both. It's all about what the volunteers want to do. Okay, that's how nonprofits work, especially people who are working for an organization not being paid anything. Nobody's paid anything in this organization. All the money that we have that comes in goes out to buy tefillin, for example, for people once they've either converted or returned, buy books for learning, buy, all travel expenses for, some of the rabbis sometimes because they don't pay out-of-pocket expenses, but we don't pay the rabbis. So those are the kinds of things. And if anyone's interested, you can contact me directly. Moshe, next slide after you translate, please.
Ok, tenemos el llamado a la acción, dice nuestra ponente, y en ese sentido, la idea es empezar a reclutar más gente que pueda hacer una defensa, por hacerlo dentro de las redes sociales y también dentro de grupos políticos de presión, para comenzar a hacer ruido respecto a todo lo que está sucediendo. Reclutar también más rabinos para trabajar con Anousim como gente que está retornando, y en ese sentido hablar de Batya Dinim. Mencionó ya anteriormente que hay 3 Batya Dinim en Israel, 3 en Estados Unidos y algunos más en Latinoamérica, con los que ella trabaja para poder integrar a la gente como un retorno o como conversión, y esto puede tener validez ante la Rambanut. Por otro lado, una de las herramientas que se esboza es justicia deberás perseguir. Viéndola en Deuteronomio, apelamos a que la gente encuentre el criterio correcto respecto a defender la ayuda hacia los Bnei Anousim. Hacer justicia, amar la misericordia y caminar modestamente con Hashem. Es otro de los pesukim o de los versículos que traen para defender la idea de la organización. Ahora, estamos hablando de una organización donde todos son voluntarios, donde todos tienen alguna cosa que desarrollar en particular, alguna tarea, y cada quien puede integrarse diciendo qué tarea puede desarrollar, qué tarea puede desempeñar, y hay que entender que todo esto funciona en base a voluntariado. No hay un sueldo en particular para gente que está dentro de el grupo de voluntarios, se paga, y lo que hace Israel Anousim es generar estos recursos, solicitar los recursos, solicitar donaciones que van directamente para los Bnei Anousim, por ejemplo, para comprar tefilín, comprar libros, incluso para gastos de traslados de los rabinos cuando no hay el monto suficiente para poder lograr que se trasladen. No estamos hablando de sueldos, no se pagan sueldos, sino en la ayuda en general para que sea posible. Si alguien está interesado, podríamos utilizar todos sus conocimientos para poder ayudar en este programa.
Okay, great. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is a photo of Plymouth Rock. No, don't go. No, okay. Now, Plymouth Rock was a boulder when the Mayflower landed in Plymouth Harbor in 1620. It was a huge boulder in Plymouth Harbor. And what happened was people would come to that boulder and chip away to get a little piece of the rock as a souvenir. This is in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Okay, this is what's left of it, about the size of two halalos side by side. Okay, that's how big it is today. On the other hand, I like this photo because it's a reminder of one approach to a dilemma or a catch-22 or a situation that's really hard to crack is you have to chip away at it. Okay, next slide. Oh no, Moshe, go ahead and translate. Never mind.
Muy bien. En su pantalla tenemos la foto de una roca que es bastante famosa en los Estados Unidos, en la bahía de Plymouth. Esta roca conmemora el lugar en donde los peregrinos que venían de Gran Bretaña o los colonos llegaron por primera vez a los Estados Unidos para comenzar a colonizar el área. Esto era una roca enorme, nos dice Yaffa, y fue desgastada porque la gente se llevaba pedacito por pedacito hasta que en realidad su tamaño es el que conocemos en la actualidad, que es como si fueran 2 jalot juntas. Es bastante pequeña considerando su tamaño en determinado momento. Y esto, dice, además del valor histórico, me muestra algo, que podemos enfrentar este dilema o este callejón sin salida respecto a la condición actual de los Bnei Anousim actuando de esta manera, es decir, desgastando poco a poco hasta que este problema llegue a ser minúsculo.
Okay, great. Next slide. So this is Woody. Some people recognize Woody. You're about my age. Woody Woodpecker. This is another way to make change, is to keep pecking at the wood or the metal, making an irritating noise until finally something is done. Another metaphor, by the way, some of you probably know this as well, is the metaphor of a grain of sand. And that causes an oyster irritation. And so the oyster will massage that grain of sand over and over and over again for a very long period of time until it polishes that grain of sand into a pearl. I've been called a grain of sand, by the way, over the years, and I take it as a compliment. Go ahead, Moshe.
Muy bien, entonces tenemos aquí al pájaro carpintero. Probablemente alguno de nosotros vio esta caricatura en tiempos atrás. El punto aquí es, ¿cuál es la metáfora respecto al pájaro carpintero? El punto aquí es hacer ruido. De la misma manera en que el pájaro carpintero utiliza su pico para generar ruido en la corteza de un árbol y salen los bichos para poder comérselos, de la misma manera, siempre que hagamos ruido, las cosas pueden iniciar su cambio y su desarrollo. Por otro lado, tenemos a la ostra, en donde un granito de arena causa una sensación tan desagradable dentro de ella que tiene que empezar a lidiar con este granito de arena, transformándolo en algún momento en una perla. Dice, Yaffa, me han llamado en muchas ocasiones granito de arena, entonces entiendo bien que hay todo un potencial para hacer de este problema algo hermoso como una perla.
Okay, great. Next slide. So this is the official definition of a catch-22. What happened to this slide? Whoops, it's not there. Next slide. What happened to that one too? Okay, I don't know what happened here, but this is the justification for people compelling conversions of the Bnei Anousim. I'll just tell you what it is. In Deuteronomy 5, verses 8 through 10, you can read this for yourself. It's talking about idolatry. You shall not make for yourself an image, etc., and so forth. And then it says, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. So some people say, and I don't know where they get it, is it in the Shulchan Aruch or whatever, they say by the fifth generation, those descendants of Jews are no longer Jews. And if they wanted to come back and rejoin Am Israel, they would have to fully convert, as if they were from non-Jews. Their ancestry doesn't matter, in other words, okay? But the reason why that's incorrect with the Bnei Anousim, because the Bnei Anousim, our ancestors were secretly Jewish. They were Jews. And a lot of Jewish people don't know this. It's not taught. It's not explained to people. So they assume, a lot of people assume that Bnei Anousim just has to convert. It's been over 500 years. You're talking about 5 generations. It's over 500 years since your ancestors were Jews, or that's what people think anyway. The rest of that quote, no, I'm sorry, Ezekiel 34, verse 7. The Lord, compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in loving kindness and truth. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. Those two sources for this about punishing people to the third and fourth generation, which obviously from the fifth, starting with the fifth, they're no longer Jews. Go ahead, Moshe.
Muy bien, vamos a mostrar aquí, hay justificaciones textuales respecto a por qué se solicita las conversiones para los Bnei Anousim. En Deuteronomio 5, 8 al 10, dice allí, y no deberán hacer ustedes para sí mismos imágenes, con una forma de nada que estén en los cielos, o camine sobre la tierra, o esté en las aguas, o debajo de las aguas. Y no se inclinarán frente de ellas para adorarlas, pues yo el Señor su Dios, soy un Dios celoso, que castigo a los hijos por el pecado de sus padres hasta la tercera y cuarta generación de aquellos que me odian. Y es aquí de donde se toma la idea de que la quinta generación de los descendientes de judíos ya no son considerados judíos. Dice la ponente, que no recuerda si está citado en Shulchan Aruch como la ley en sí, pero de ahí es donde se basa. Sin embargo, tenemos que entender que no podríamos referirnos a ello, pues en este caso estamos hablando de judíos que vivieron secretamente comportándose como judíos y no simplemente como aquellos que se alejaron de su fe. Y tendríamos que mostrarles amor, perdón, y el verso sigue, pero demostraré amor a aquellos que me aman, dice Shem, por miles de generaciones o por 1000 generaciones, y aquellos que me aman y guardan mis mandamientos. Luego nos trae una cita de Éxodo 34:7, donde dice, el Señor que se desenvuelve con compasión y gracia, el Dios que es lento para la ira y abundante en amor y misericordia y en verdad, que no deja a los culpables sin un castigo, sino que castiga a sus hijos y los hijos de sus hijos por el pecado de los padres hasta la tercera y cuarta generación. Estos son los versículos en donde está basada esta idea en general.
Okay, one more thing I didn't read, which I should have read. The last part of Deuteronomy 5:8-10 says, but showing love to 1,000 generations for those who love me and keep my commandments. And that's what the B'nai Anousim did as best they could. Did you translate that, Moshe?
I did.
Okay, Yofi. All right, next slide. We're almost at Q&A right now. Okay, you can read what's on the slide, but what I want to say about it is we need many more Jews helping the B'nai Anousim and the B'nai Noach, for that matter, to feel welcomed, to feel supported and feel like Judaism and the Torah is alive and well in their hearts. Again, 36 commandments to love the ger. I would say also that would include the returnees. And the focus is on teshuvah if one misses the mark. Okay, so we need to overcome so many years of the opposite, unfortunately. Go ahead, Moshe.
Muy bien, tenemos aquí un mensaje, una frase, y decimos que, voy a leer lo que dice directamente la imagen: las personas podrían olvidar lo que dijiste, las personas podrían olvidar lo que hiciste, pero las personas nunca olvidarán cómo cómo los hiciste sentir. Una frase de Maya Angelou. Y respecto a esto, sabemos que necesitamos muchos más judíos ayudando a los Bnei Anousim y a los Bnei Noach para que se sientan bienvenidos, para que se sientan que tienen el apoyo al respecto y sentir que el judaísmo y la Torah está viva y está pululante en los corazones de los judíos. Sabemos que tenemos 36 mandamientos de amar al ger y también enfocarnos en la teshuvah. Si de repente alguno llega a perderse y a perder la marca, a perder la meta en donde debería haber estado con los pies, dice, necesitamos sobrepasar tantos años de lo que ha sido opuesto, es decir, de este maltrato que han recibido desafortunadamente.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, next slide. We're going to go through these next ones really quickly. Photos. Here's a photo in the next slide of the view outside of my window to Route 60 in Jerusalem. That happened to be in the wintertime. But that's the view I have of a part of Jerusalem looking north, as a matter of fact. Next slide, Moshe. This is a diagram of the world, and it shows the Western Sephardi, or the Anousim diaspora. It's color-coded so that the red represents Spanish, of course, the French is in blue, And there's a couple of little dots, by the way, representing here Quebec and Montreal, because they went from France, southern France. Well, the Jews left Spain, went over into southern France, and then ultimately got to Quebec and Montreal. In green is Brazil and Portugal. You can't see the Azores, but they're in the middle there. The gray area is Spanish and Portuguese combined. So you have all of Central America. You have Goa in Italy, a little section here in India, rather, sorry, of Goa, Portuguese there. You have Australia, which is in gray. It's Spanish and Portuguese. Spanish only here. And in Indonesia, Spanish and Portuguese both. Philippines is all the people there are Spanish descent. Okay. And you have in Europe here, Italy and the Balkans and Iraq, Iran, Syria, etc. By the way, there are also Anousim in Israel. But since the term Anousim really, from the historical sense, in the responsa, was about the Spanish and Portuguese, we don't work with them yet, but we might start to work with people who were forcibly converted to Islam who want to come back. That's something that's being looked at, okay? But it's not happening today. But there are forced converts, not from the classic sense of the Spanish and Portuguese. So these are all the countries where people live today that we're working with. Next slide, Moshe, please.
Okay, I'll translate over here, please.
That's right, I forgot to not
Okay.
used to simultaneous
Entonces,
translation.
muchas gracias. Tenemos aquí una foto. Hace ratito mostramos una foto. La señora Yaffa quiso compartir una foto de su departamento mirando hacia el norte. Esta es la autopista 66 en Israel. Luego mostramos la foto. Tenemos un atlas mundial respecto a la distribución de los Bnei Anousim a través del mundo. Lo que está en azul, hablamos de judíos franceses que llegaron al final de cuentas hasta Canadá. Tenemos la mayor parte de judíos Bnei Anousim que fueron exiliados y de origen español. Tenemos muchos de ellos poblaron partes costeras en los Estados Unidos, México, América Latina, pero se fueron tan lejos como Irán, Turquía y las Filipinas y un tanto más lejos. Judíos de origen portugués que salieron de Portugal, llegaron a las Azores, llegaron a Brasil y algunas otras islas del Pacífico. Tenemos también una mezcla en ciertas áreas de Centroamérica, en donde Bnei Anousim de origen español y portugués poblaron estas áreas, y también en California. Y también hay algunos grupos que son una mezcla de judíos españoles, portugueses y franceses que están allí en Estados Unidos y tal vez en parte de Canadá. Entonces, estamos trabajando, dice nuestra ponente, con gente en todo el mundo, desde gente en Latinoamérica, también gente en la India, en Italia, en los Balcanes. Incluso estamos pensando trabajar con Bnei Anousim en Israel. Ahora podría parecer un tanto raro decir, ok, ya están en la tierra de Israel, ¿por qué los llamas así? Pero incluso allí en la tierra de Israel hay descendientes de judíos que fueron forzados a convertirse en el Islam. En ese sentido, es gente que también requiere una ayuda, aunque no pueda parecer el clásico ejemplo de Bnei Anousim.
Yofi. Okay, next slide. Thank you. This is just a very quick photo to mention that our people, Bnei Anousim, did rallies and celebrations for Israeli Yom HaAtzmaut 4 years in a row, from 2016 to 2019. In a lot of places, Brazil and other places in Latin America. And then it got stopped, obviously, in 2020 because of COVID. Go ahead, Moshe.
Bien, hay que destacar que la gente de Bnei Anousim ha hecho de repente mítines a lo largo de Israel cuando es el día de la independencia para demostrar presencia y hacer esta labor de presión. Por supuesto, en años como el año pasado no fue posible por el tema de la pandemia.
Okay, that's just one of my favorite quotes from Tehillim. Next slide. You can read it if you want in Spanish.
Okay, quiere mostrarles una de sus citas favoritas de los Salmos y dice, y ellos confiarán en ti, aquellos que conocen tu nombre, pues nunca has olvidado a aquellos que te buscan, Hashem. Esto es Salmos 9:11.
Okay, next slide, Moshe. So now this is going to be Q&A. And Les, we're going to keep this slide up because I really love this quote also from the Maksor of Rosh Hashanah. And we're going to turn it back to you after Moshe translates for me so that you can run the Q&A session, Les. Thank you, Moshe. I really appreciate all your help.
Bien, vamos a iniciar entonces la sección de preguntas y respuestas. Me pidió que también traduzca lo que viene en esta diapositiva y dice, sí, yo les he dado a ustedes una buena enseñanza. No olviden, no dejen mi Torah, pues es un árbol de vida para aquellos que se adhieren a ella. Los que la llevan consigo son alabados y sus sendas son sendas placenteras y todos sus caminos son caminos de paz. Tráenos de regreso a ti, Hashem, y retornaremos. Renueva nuestros días como los días de antaños, y esto es un extracto del Mahzor de Rosh Hashanah.
Les, are you with us?
Absolutely. It's been riveting. Okay, so we're going to open up for questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to ask from our
Do you want
audience.
me to stop sharing the
Okay, that's a good idea.
slide?
Okay, if there's not any live questions, or then maybe start asking the written questions. Lowell's got something to ask.
Vamos a iniciar el momento de preguntas. Si alguien tiene una pregunta en particular, puede en este momento solicitar la palabra y puede participar. Con gusto vamos a hacer la traducción de las preguntas en inglés y también de las respuestas en inglés y en español.
Okay.
Am I supposed to say something? I heard you, Les.
Yeah, Lowell, if you've got any comments to mention or any questions to ask.
Yes. First, to thank Yaffa Batya for her marvelous presentation, and all the participants from around the world for joining us. I have some short comments. They're supposed to be short. In terms of what Yaffa is talking about, from my perspective, we are living in the end, new beginning of days where the world as we know it is undergoing a radical transformation, and where the city of Jerusalem will expand to fill the land of Israel, and the land of Israel will expand to fill the world. What does that mean? The population, Israel is the size of New Jersey with a population density the size of Singapore. What will happen in the next few years is the land of Israel, some people might not like the comparison, will become like England with the British Empire and the dominions, where the renewed fifth Israelite monarchy of Daniel's vision, chapter 2, verse 44, the center will be in the land of Israel. The dominions will be where the lost tribes live now. Because remember, when we talk about the Jewish people, we are talking about the 12 tribes of Jacob, Israel, of which the Jewish people, as we know it, is a part. And so very rapidly now around the world, all sorts of things are happening simultaneously. There are people in the Spanish and Portuguese speaking world who are either interested in conversion to Judaism or a relation with Jews, Judaism, and Israel. President Cardozo and Macias of Brazil, and Henrique Macias, the singer, his son. All this is accelerating. Also the movement, the Philo Judaic movements within Christianity and Islam that are growing worldwide, people of partially Jewish ancestry throughout Europe, hundreds of thousands in Poland, who are again interested in the connection one form or another. The B'nai Noach movement, which would be the whole world because the Noachide faith is for everyone. And the basis actually of the Noachide laws and all the world's major religion. All these things are happening simultaneously. The Christian Zionist movement, most people don't realize, began 500 years ago. It begins with Sir Henry Finch in 1598, publishing The World's Great Restoration. That's the first writing of the Restorationists saying that the Jews will, actually the 12 tribes will return to the land of Israel. So conversos, B'nai Anousim, the way in which the state of Israel relates to people who are interested in coming to Israel and living as Jews will be very different from the way the monarchy will relate. And the terrible examples that Yaffa mentioned about abuse, there you see the spirit of the Erev Rav mixed multitude, Sabbatians, Francus, a spirit of Amalek, which is to take advantage of the weak, the sick, and to pick them off one by one, from what she described. That you will find with people in any host society. So the state of Israel now should do whatever it can, whether one wants to come and live in the land of Israel, which is quite crowded, or be part of the extended community of Israel, find ways to get people involved and feel part of the larger community. Israel urgently needs the talents and skills of hundreds of thousands and millions of people from all over the world to build that community. That's the only thing I would say is that this should be seen within a larger context, and it can be handled properly. Not that in Israel, well, you'll be in my party, you'll be in their party. Who are you going to vote? Who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to give money to? That's reduced to a football. That'd be my only comment, to see it in a larger context. Or even if you look in southern Italy, the more south you go from Rome, the more Jewish it gets. By the time you get to Sicily, the whole place is yeshiva, and Sardinia and Corsica.
And Malta, right. Yeah, I know.
Excuse me, I didn't realize about Malta. So you have this, you have also the work of Sfimi Sinai with that many of the Arabs, clans, tribes, and families of the land of Israel are Jews who never left, especially the Christian Arabs in the Galilee, even the ones who came back. So all these things are happening all at once all over the world. And with the visionary leadership in Israel, it could be dealt with in a positive way. And hopefully Yaffa will find more such visionary leadership in the Jewish community in Israel and abroad as we know it now.
Well, not unless we do something about it, but let's hope. Okay, can you read or someone deal with the comments in chat, or anybody who has a question? Thank you, Lowell.
Okay.
Can someone?
Yeah, Yaffa, you know, I've just got a question to ask.
Okay.
Why aren't the Anousim embraced? I mean, we're looking for Aliyah. We sending out emissaries all over the world to get Jews to come back. Here are people that really, really want to reconnect with their roots. They should be really, the term embraced with open arms. We should be so grateful that people have kept their connections through such hardships and they want to return to the fold. So why aren't they more accepted? And, you know, it just doesn't make sense. Here we're looking for Aliyah, and we have people that really want to come, and we kind of rejecting, which is it's a contradiction.
Moshe, you want to translate?
Yes. Bueno, comenzamos con las preguntas. Leslie Glassman dice, bueno, ¿por qué no somos recibidos los B'nai Anousim? Al final de cuentas, tenemos toda la intención de unirnos, tenemos toda la intención de acatar las reglas, tenemos toda la intención de hacer las cosas bien. ¿No debería ser una recepción abierta, amable, ser recibidos con los brazos abiertos? ¿Por qué es que se sucede esta situación que en realidad no tiene sentido?
Okay, so there's two answers. Since 2015, when we had that, or they had the Knesset MK, who started the caucus for the Anousim, from there, the ball got thrown over to the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, who started a committee. They interviewed a whole bunch of people. They created a report. The report was published in 2017. After that, there was a recommendation, among others, that was in the report to do a mapping project for somebody to go out to these various communities of people who think of themselves as Jews or want to be Jews or whatever it happens to be, and go out and talk to them and come back with a report. So this man did that. He was working for the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. He created a report. It was published in 2019. Then we had COVID, okay? So the short answer is there's been no political will at the Knesset or in the NGOs, like the World Zionist Organization and the Saknut, to do anything about this. There's been no political will, and all they've done is put it off to committees or done these reports and analysis. Moshe?
Podría iniciar diciendo que desde 2015 que presentó Yaffa y algunas otras personas esto dentro de una reunión en la Knesset, se dirigió al ministro de la diáspora, al ministerio de la diáspora. Ellos crearon un reporte e inició una investigación a partir de 2017 para hacer un mapeado alrededor del mundo de gente que provenía de Bnei Anousim, gente que estuviera alrededor del mundo y quisiera integrarse como Bnei Anousim, como conversos y demás, y entonces hablar con los involucrados. Este reporte fue publicado en el 2019 y bueno, tuvimos entonces el achaque de la pandemia de COVID y más allá no se ha movido. Lo que podemos decir es que no ha habido una voluntad política por parte del Estado de Israel respecto a cómo involucrarse activamente en el retorno de estas personas o el interés de las personas alrededor del mundo respecto a Bnei Anousim.
And I failed to mention, which I should say right now, is that part of the lack of political will at the Knesset to do anything to help this situation is that we've had 4 elections in 2 years, and we might be facing a 5th in 2.5 years. Okay, so that also needs to be recognized that they've had other things on their plate to deal with, mainly in and out of a Knesset coalition.
Bueno, también cabe destacar que parte de esta falta de voluntad política tiene que ver con las 4 elecciones que ha habido en 5 años en el Estado de Israel, algo fuera de lo común y otra probable que viene en camino. Entonces, los grupos políticos se han estado enfocando en formar alianzas más que en avanzar en puntos en particular de alguna agenda política en particular del Ministerio de la Diáspora.
Now, the second answer I have to your question, Les, it's a great question, by the way, comes from the Zohar. Now, my husband and I, my husband's an Ashkenazi rabbi, by the way. My husband and I read from the Zohar every Shabbat, or we read from Me'am Loez, which is a Ladino translation, okay, of the Torah and its commentaries. And just last weekend, we read from the Zohar of Kitsaria. Okay, and here's what it says. Why don't you translate that, Moshe, and then I'll read.
Otra de las razones que le gustaría presentar es un extracto del Zohar. Quiere que sepamos que su esposo es un rabino ashkenazí y continuamente en Shabbat dedican su tiempo a leer extractos del Zohar y también Me'am Loev, que es un comentario o una traducción de la Torah y sus comentarios del ladino. Entonces, quiere citar parte de lo que me trae el Zohar en este sentido para responder la pregunta.
Okay, so I'm going to read a small portion from the Zohar. Rabbi Abba discoursed on the verse, quote, "As in the day of thy coming forth from the land of Egypt, will I show unto him marvelous things," quoting Micah, verse chapter 7, verse 15. Moshe?
Ok. El Zohar nos trae un pasaje de Miqueas. Can you repeat the quote so
Yeah.
I can note
Yeah.
it here?
As in the day of thy coming forth from the land of Egypt, will I show unto him marvelous things.
Okay. Como en los días en los que llegaron de Egipto, ahora vendrán días en que les mostraré cosas maravillosas.
From Micah chapter 7, verse 15.
Esto está en el libro de Miqueas, capítulo 7, versículo 15.
He said, quote, God will one day bring deliverance to his sons, as in the days when he sent to deliver Israel and inflicted plagues on Egypt for their sake.
Y entonces trae el versículo y la interpretación y dice, Dios traerá liberación a su pueblo, como en los días en los que liberó a sus hijos de la tierra de Egipto e infligió a los egipcios con plagas.
What is the difference between this deliverance and that of Egypt?
¿Cuál sería entonces la diferencia entre esta liberación y la liberación de Egipto en ese momento?
The deliverance in Egypt was from one king and one country. Here it will be from all the kings of the earth.
En ese momento la liberación fue de un rey y de una nación, y en este momento la liberación va a ser de muchos reyes y muchas naciones.
Then God will be glorified in all the world, and all shall know his dominion, as it is written, quote, the Lord shall be king over the whole earth.
Y entonces Dios será glorificado sobre toda la tierra y la gente lo reconocerá. Y trae también un pasuk en donde dice, y él será reconocido por todos sobre la tierra.
The quote is from Zechariah 14, verse 9.
La cita está en Zacarías 14, en capítulo 14, versículo 9.
And they shall bring Israel as an offering to the Holy One, blessed be he.
Y traerán a Israel como una ofrenda ante el Eterno, bendito sea su nombre.
As it is written, quote, and they shall bring all your brethren, etc., from Yeshayahu.
Y entonces también trae una cita y traerán a todos sus descendientes frente de él. Este es un verso de Isaías.
Yeshayahu 66, verse 20.
Isaías capítulo 66, versículo 20.
The last verse, then the patriarchs shall rejoice to see the deliverance of their sons.
Y entonces los patriarcas se van a regocijar por la liberación de sus descendientes.
And so it is written, quote, as in the days of thy going forth from Egypt, I shall show him wonders.
Y entonces también trae una cita, como en los días de su liberación de Egipto, yo también les mostraré ahora maravillas.
And my own opinion of that quote is that the ones who bring the brethren are the B'nai Noach.
Ahora, en la opinión de la ponente, quienes traerán de regreso a esta descendencia a la tierra de Israel serán los Bnei Noach.
Okay, Les, does that answer your question?
I'd like to just mention the Ma'am Lo'ez is found in many Ashkenazi homes. Both my brothers have it. And I've been to many very prominent rabbis and they have it as well. So it was a tremendous work.
Right. Somehow you got cut off. Is there
Sorry.
any other question?
I don't know. Do we have any more questions out there or comments?
All right,
Well,
questions or comments?
A lot of participants. At one time there was over 35 and now there's 26. So people have been here for nearly 2 hours being riveted, hearing your incredible presentation, because it really is. It's phenomenal. It's really been, Lowell, I'm sure you agree with me. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to have you tonight. And you know, if what we can do is we want to have your contact details with the video, and then people can contact you direct after watching this. And for more information, they can go straight direct to you. And I think it's just such an important topic.
May I interrupt, Les?
Absolutely. For sure.
Hello?
Yes, of course. Please go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. Yes, I'm waiting here. I took my wife for a checkup, and I'm waiting in the parking lot. So I'm not in the picture so much, but I didn't want to miss this wonderful presentation, and I thank you. The observations that I make, one comment was whether Yaffa is in touch with Rabbi Leon of El Paso, who has done marvelous work with the Anousim, and he had even instructed me to come and lecture about Greek Jews, and I learned more about this new phenomenon that is expanding. And soon, perhaps, you mentioned 2 to 500 million Anousim could be incorporated into the Jewish nation, making a realization of the promise of Abraham God to Abraham, that we will be as the son of by the sea. It's phenomenal. At the same time, Les is absolutely on target when he says it's a political question, and of accepting this new group. And it's amazing that just as the conversos of all had difficulty being accepted in the Christian society, and were seen suspiciously eventually in the Jewish society, they are experiencing this kind of blowback as they are eagerly returning to the fold. At the same time, in Latin America and South America, there have been reports in recent weeks. There has been a tremendous increase in anti-Semitism. Phenomenal, perhaps even among the evangelical Christians, particularly the fundamentalists, but in general. So all of this is troubling, but also hopeful. And I think I'm excited. As far as Me'am Loez, many decades ago, I was exposed to that by our own rabbi at the Sephardic temple in the Five Towns. He gave me a set, and I've been imbibing the wisdom of our Sephardic fathers ever since, not as systematically as I did once. I thoroughly read cover to cover. Now I go in and select passages as Batya, as Yaffa mentions in her tradition with her husband. Thank you very much. Really, it was uplifting and hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Prophet Matthias. Thank you very much for your wonderful comments.
No, wait, we're not going to stop yet, because Lowell, before you got here, said we could go on beyond the 2 hours. Okay, so if people want to stay, but I want to answer his question, because Rabbi Leon in El Paso is another of these exceptions. As long as you mentioned his name, I concur. He not only has done a lot for the B'nai Anousim in that area of Texas. I met him personally. He invited me to come out to his community. I gave a lecture on the Sunday because I stayed over for the weekend. He's a wonderful man. And not only that, he created an Anousim museum type of thing. This is unheard of in the world. And I don't mean to take anything away from the Shoah and all of the museums and the memorials and the March for the Living and on and on and on that's done regarding what happened in Europe because of the Nazis, okay? But a lot of people don't understand that the Nazis got a lot of their ideas from the Spanish, from the Inquisition, about how to persecute people. They just went a little bit further and said, why should we tell them, like in Spain, leave, convert, or die? Okay, and give them a choice. We're just going to wipe them all out. So yes, it was worse. And there were a lot of also Sephardi in Europe, in Saloniki, Salonika and other places in the Balkans that also got caught up in this whole thing with the Nazis. So it wasn't just the Ashkenazi world. So he's practically the only one. I think there's one other museum, and I don't remember where, but I know definitely Rabbi Leon did this. So he's one of these exceptions, and he's a major exception. But has it caught on? Does the Holocaust museums and the memorials and all the other stuff ever make mention of the suffering and the injustice of what was done to the Sephardi Jews of Spain and Portugal? For the most part, no. It's a glaring exception, and not too many people are working on it. So anyway, thank you for your comments. Moshe.
Just an addendum to that, there was a two-term mayor of Salonika recently by the name of Yanis Boutaris, who in his second inauguration donned a Star of David, the yellow Star of David on his lapel, and to the consternation of the neo-Nazi party of Golden Dawn. And he proposed, and actually this is still in the staging, in the planning stage, a Holocaust museum in Salonika. Keep in mind that the Aristotle University, now European famous, but not world famous, is erected on top of the 500-year-old cemetery, Jewish cemetery. Can you imagine? They actually use the marbles of the graves to pave the Aristotle University and also nearby churches. So the anti-Semitism of Greece is somewhat assuaged by a forward-looking former mayor like Boutaris, but still it's very difficult. It's mired in all kinds of bureaucratic red tape, etc. But it's just as you say, a step in the right direction to recognize the 87% loss of Greek Jewry, 60,000 lives. Can you imagine what Greece would have been like had they lived today?
Right,
But
I understand.
that's another topic that
Okay,
I will deal with.
Let's see if there are any questions. So I really want to answer people's questions if they have any detailed questions about what we're doing.
Go ahead.
Ok, entonces, lo que Yaffa contestó hace un momento, un poco el comentario que se dio respecto al trabajo que ella ha realizado y también sobre cómo los países están reconociendo lo que se hizo a través de los años en contra de judíos, ya sea en el Holocausto o antes. Es curioso que también el Rab León, allá en El Paso, ha hecho muchísimo para ayudar a Anousim, ha sido mucho lo que ha ayudado, no quería en el momento decir directamente el nombre, pero ya que se mencionó, incluso construyó un museo para los Anousimes, uno de los únicos museos que hay en el mundo, y hay que saber que también hay otro, me parece, construyéndose en Salónica. El punto aquí es entender que los nazis tomaron mucho de las ideas respecto de cómo eliminar a los judíos en el Holocausto de los inquisidores españoles. Y al final de cuentas, todos los sufrimientos que han pasado judíos en Faradim a lo largo de la historia han estado involucrados con este proceso de odio que ha habido, incluso en determinados momentos, ya cuando las personas fallecían y tenían su descanso en algún cementerio judío, incluso quitaban las piedras de estos cementerios para utilizarlos para construir iglesias o universidades. Entonces, es un comentario al respecto. Y pregunta, Yaffa, si hay alguna otra pregunta que pudieran direccionar para su respuesta.
Yes, I would like to say something, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, I hear all the discussion, and I just would like to participate, saying something in particular about in Spain. The situation here is quite different of what has been described. First, the families that are descendants of conversos. Most of the people that recently, and especially people with older age, there has not been any problem to be reintegrated. Obviously, there is no returns. The only people that were offering returns here for during the last 20, 15 years were the Reform and the Masortis. But the community, the Orthodox Sephardic community, obviously, we went, all the people that wanted